I never thought I'd be the kind of man to doubt his wife. Emily and I had been married for 8 years, and for most of that time, I believed we were happy. At least, I thought so. But looking back, I can see the cracks had started to form long before I noticed them. I worked as a project manager at a construction firm, and my job required long hours, sometimes even weekends. It wasn't the easiest schedule for a marriage, but Emily always said she understood. She worked as a real estate agent, which meant she had a lot of flexibility in her schedule. I trusted her. At least, I used to. Everything started feeling off about 6 months ago. It wasn't anything obvious at first, just small things. She started dressing up more often, even when she wasn't meeting clients. She'd spend longer at the gym, something she never really cared for before. And then there were the text messages, ones she never let me see. She used to leave her phone around the house without a care, but now, it was always locked, always in her pocket or face down on the table. I tried to brush it off. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But then, one night, I caught her lying. It was a Friday, and I had planned to surprise her with dinner. I left work early, picked up her favorite meal, and headed home. When I got there, the house was empty. I called her, and she picked up after a few rings. "Hey, where are you?" I asked. She hesitated. "Oh, I'm just out with Sarah. We're grabbing a quick drink after her rough day at work." I frowned. "That's funny. I just ran into Sarah's husband at the store. He said she's been home sick all day." Silence. A long, heavy silence. Then, a nervous laugh. "Oh, I meant, I'm with a different Sarah. You don't know her." I didn't push it. I just hung up and sat there, staring at my untouched dinner. My stomach twisted with something I hadn't felt before, doubt. The next few weeks, I started paying closer attention. And then, I started noticing the patterns. She'd get dressed up on days when I knew I'd be working late. She'd leave the house at odd hours, claiming last-minute client meetings. And then there were the small, hushed conversations on the phone, always ending when I walked into the room. Something was wrong. I just didn't know how bad it was. And then, I made the mistake of confiding in someone I thought I could trust. Mark, my coworker. We'd worked together for 5 years, and I considered him a friend. I told him about my suspicions over lunch one day. "I don't know, man," I said, pushing my food around my plate. "I just have this gut feeling, like something's off." Mark nodded sympathetically. "That's tough, man. But maybe you're overthinking it. Emily's always been good to you." That was the moment I should have known. The way he avoided eye contact, the way he shifted in his seat. But I was blind. I didn't see it then. I was about to, though. I was about to see just how deep this betrayal went. After that night, I couldn't ignore it anymore. The little things I had brushed off now seemed like flashing neon signs. Emily was hiding something, and I was going to find out what. At first, I started small, just watching, waiting. I took mental notes of the days she left the house at odd hours, the way she always seemed to be texting someone but would quickly put her phone away when I got close. But suspicion wasn't proof. I needed something concrete. So, I did what any man in my position would do. I started digging. One night, while she was asleep, I took her phone from the nightstand. I had seen her type in her passcode before, memorized the quick flicks of her fingers. It took 3 tries, but I got in. My heart pounded as I scrolled through her messages, expecting to find the usual work texts and family group chats. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But then, I found it. A conversation with someone saved under the name S. It wasn't much, just a few messages that didn't make sense. S. Can't stop thinking about last night. Emily, me neither. Wish we had more time. S. Next week. Same place? Emily, of course. Can't wait. My stomach dropped. I scrolled up, looking for more, but the messages only went back a few days. Everything before that had been deleted. I stood there in the dim glow of the screen, my breath shallow. My wife was meeting someone, and it wasn't just a one-time thing. I put the phone back and lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. My mind raced. Who the hell was S? And then, a sickening thought crept into my mind. Sarah? No, she wouldn't have covered for Emily like that. Steve? No, we didn't even know a Steve. And then, it hit me. Mark's last name was Sullivan. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I barely slept that night. By morning, I had made a decision. If Emily and Mark thought they could play me for a fool, they were wrong. I was going to catch them. For the next week, I played dumb. I acted normal, smiled when I had to, pretended everything was fine. But behind the scenes, I was setting my trap. First, I started tracking her. I installed a GPS tracker on her car. Nothing too obvious, just a small device tucked under the dashboard. It linked to an app on my phone, letting me see exactly where she went. Then, I made sure I'd be working late, on a day I suspected she'd meet him. Friday came, and as expected, Emily kissed me goodbye, dressed up like she was going on a date. "Just meeting a client," she said with a smile. I smiled back. "Have fun." As soon as she left, I checked the tracker. She wasn't going anywhere near her usual meeting spots. Instead, she was heading toward a hotel. My blood boiled. I grabbed my keys and followed her, keeping a safe distance. I didn't need to be a detective to figure out what was happening. When I got to the hotel, I parked a block away and waited. 10 minutes later, a second car pulled up. Mark. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. They thought they were being so careful, but they had no idea what was coming. I sat in my car, gripping my phone so tightly my fingers ached. Emily and Mark had just entered the hotel, laughing like teenagers sneaking around behind their parents' backs. But they weren't sneaking behind parents. They were sneaking behind me. I took a deep breath. This was it. The moment I had been preparing for. I wasn't going to storm in blindly. I needed to make sure there was no way they could deny what they were doing. So, I grabbed my phone and dialed a number. "Hey, you here?" I asked. "Yeah, in the lobby." "You sure about this?" My friend Jake replied. Jake was an old college buddy, now a private investigator. When I told him my suspicions, he hadn't hesitated to help. "Positive," I said. They just went in. I stepped out of my car, my heart pounding. My palms were sweaty, but I had never been more focused in my life. We entered the hotel separately. Jake hung back, pretending to check his phone while I approached the front desk. "Hey," I said, flashing the receptionist a friendly smile. "I think my wife just checked in with a friend. I forgot to bring something she needs. Could you remind me what room she's in?" It was a gamble, but the receptionist barely looked up as she pulled up the records. "Room 512. Bingo." I nodded and turned away before she could ask anything else. Jake and I took the elevator up. Every floor we passed felt like an eternity. When we reached the 5th floor, we walked quietly down the hall, stopping in front of the door. I pressed my ear against it. Laughter. Then a low, murmuring voice. Then her voice. I felt something inside me snap. Jake gave me a nod and pulled out his phone, ready to record. I took a deep breath and pounded on the door. Silence. I pounded again, harder this time. "Room service," I called out mockingly. I heard hurried movement, hushed whispers. Then, after a moment, the door cracked open. Emily's face appeared. Her eyes went wide as soon as she saw me. "Oh my God," she gasped, but I didn't let her finish. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. And there he was, Mark Sullivan, my coworker, my friend, standing in nothing but a towel, his face drained of all color. The room smelled like cheap hotel soap and betrayal. The bed was messy, sheets tangled. I felt my stomach churn, but I didn't let it show. Well, I said, crossing my arms. "Didn't expect me, did you?" Emily's mouth opened and closed, like she was searching for an excuse, but I didn't give her the chance. Instead, I turned to Jake. "Get everything?" I asked. "Every damn second," Jake replied, waving his phone. Emily's face went even paler. "Wait, no, Jake, please delete that. This isn't what it looks like." I let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, really? So, you didn't just check into a hotel room with my coworker? You didn't lie to me." Mark finally found his voice. "Listen, man." I held up a hand. "Shut up." He clamped his mouth shut. I took a deep breath. "You know what the best part is?" I said. "This is company property." Mark's face contorted in confusion. "What?" "The credit card you used to book the room. It's under the company's expense account. Did you really think you could screw my wife and steal from the company without consequences?" His jaw dropped. No, that's not." Jake smirked and tapped his phone. "Pretty sure HR's gonna love this." Emily lunged forward, grabbing my arm. "Wait, please, Nathan, we can talk about this." I shook her off. "We have nothing to talk about, Emily." She started crying. "It was a mistake. I didn't mean to." "You didn't mean to what?" "Cheat. Lie. Ruin everything." I shot back. "Save your tears. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught." Her lip trembled, but I had no sympathy left. I turned to Mark. "I'll see you at work." "Oh, wait, probably not." With that, I turned and walked out, Jake right behind me. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I had everything I needed to make sure their lives fell apart, just like they had done to mine. The ride home was silent except for the occasional buzz of my phone. Emily had already started texting me. Emily, Nathan, please, let's talk about this. Emily, I know you're mad, but it was a mistake. Emily, we can fix this. Don't do anything crazy. I didn't reply. What was there to say? She had already done the crazy thing. Instead, I focused on what came next. I had been planning for this moment. I wasn't going to let emotions cloud my judgment. The next morning, I took the day off work and met with my lawyer, Sarah. She had handled a few divorce cases before, but when I laid out my situation, complete with evidence, her eyebrows rose. You have a solid case, she said, flipping through the files. Infidelity, company fraud, and the fact that you earn more than her means she has no real leverage in court. I nodded. I want a divorce, full separation of assets. No spousal support. Sarah smirked. With this evidence, I'd be shocked if she gets a dime. She handed me a pen. Let's start the paperwork. Later that afternoon, I called HR. Hey, Nate. My manager, Tom, greeted me. You feeling okay? Heard you took the day off. Oh, I feel great, I said. But I need to report something serious. I sent him the recording Jake had taken. Within minutes, Tom called me back, his voice tight. Mark's done. I smirked. Thought so. Not just because of the affair, but the company card? That's straight up theft. We can't ignore that. By the end of the day, Mark was fired. Emily, on the other hand, was spiraling. I had already moved out of our shared apartment and cut her off financially. She had no idea how much I had been handling behind the scenes. Bills, rent, even groceries. That evening, I got another message from her. Emily, why is my card declined? Emily, Nathan, please answer me. I didn't. Instead, I made one final move. I sent the evidence of Emily's affair to her parents. Her mother called me almost immediately. Nathan, is this real? Every word of it. Silence. Then, a heavy sigh. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Neither did I. Until now. Her mother murmured something about being disappointed, about how Emily had always been reckless. But I wasn't interested in hearing excuses. Emily had made her choice. Now, she had to live with it. A month later, the divorce was finalized. Emily tried to fight for alimony, but with the evidence of her affair, she didn't stand a chance. The judge sided with me. She walked away with nothing. Mark? He lost everything too. His wife left him as soon as she found out, taking their kids with her. And me? I moved on. It wasn't easy, but the satisfaction of knowing they had destroyed their own lives made it a little easier. One day, months later, I got a message from an unknown number. Emily, I miss you. Can we talk? I stared at it for a moment. Then I laughed, and I blocked her. I had already won.